Let's play a game. I'm going to play a clip twice. Try to spot the difference. Didn't catch it? How about this time? So today I'm going to teach you how I put a bird into the scene and made it look real. So why did I do this? Well, in filmmaking, a shot looks way more dynamic when you have something in the foreground, the middle, and the background. Not every shot needs this, but it often makes a shot a lot more interesting. So when I was filming one of my most recent videos, I was a little underwhelmed by this shot. The scene was beautiful, but I wanted to spice it up a little bit. So I noticed this little bird flying through the bottom of the scene, and that made me think, what if I put another bird in it? I jumped over to a stock footage site, typed green screen seagull, and to my surprise, they actually had that. And this is a step-by-step tutorial of how I did that. Alright, so let's hop into it. This right here is the original clip, so I'm gonna play that. It is not a bad clip in my opinion. I think the scene is beautiful, the rotation looks nice, and I just wanted to challenge myself on this one to somehow make that shot more dynamic. So this shot could have stood alone as it is, but I wanted to do something new. Okay, so quick note, I'm putting this video together right now, and I realize this isn't really a step-by-step tutorial. I kind of take you into an overview look of what I did, but the reason I do that is I want to encourage you to go out and take the inspiration from what I did, the concept of what I did here, and go see how you can do it on your own. And I think sometimes you learn better that way. And so that's kind of my goal here, but I think you can still pretty much see exactly what I did step by step. I just don't do it from scratch. So, quick note, thanks. So, I was inspired by the bird more here, because as we're so zoomed in here, that bird flies right through the bottom. I was like, oh, that's nice, I just wish that it was closer. That bird is the sole thing that inspired me to put another bird into the scene. That is where that creative inspiration came from. So, this is where the fun stuff happens. You can see that my scale started at 198%, it's insane, and my rotation started at 26%, and by the end of the clip, my scale was at 187, and my rotation was at -19. Ooh, that's a trippy effect. That should be like a social media post or something. See, this is actually how my creativity happens. Doing things like that inspires different ideas. So I would encourage you to just mess around in the editing room, because it's fun. Okay, so now let's hop over to the final effect. This is what the original clip looked like, just like that. First thing to do is I pulled the keyer, which the keyer in Final Cut is just found under the effects right here. And this is a pretty solid green screen because I got it from a stock footage site. So I took the keyer, dropped it on, and I did a near perfect job. I did mess with a little bit with the strength to make it look a little better, but look, that still looks so dang fake. Looks gross, looks terrible. And then I'm like, okay, it makes no sense for that bird to be flying through the scene this way. I don't think that with the angle of this bird and how it's flying, it's gonna look realistic at all. So I said, I'm gonna flip that bird to fly the opposite direction. Now I added a Gaussian effect on there. Look at what that Gaussian does. It makes the bird really blurry. Why? Because if you have something in the foreground of your clip, you're probably going to expect it to be out of focus. And so since everything in the background is in focus, I thought if this bird's really close to the camera, I want it to be out of focus anyway. One, because it will make it look more realistic. Two, it's probably what is most natural to how a camera would capture it. So that is why I added that blur effect. And then you can see here, I'll take the transform away again. Then I colored bird to make it match. You see how dark the bottom shadows here on this are on this? So now that bird, you can see in my exposure, I brought the exposure pretty far down on that. Okay, let's show the animation. Alright. Oh, I also blurred, I forgot that I had done this. I also keyframed the amount of blur that bird had. So as it flew, you can watch right here. See right here? Started at 9.3, and I made it more blurry as it flew through the scene. Because the closer it got to the camera, the more it was probably going to blur, right? Now let's go to my transform. As a bird is flying through the scene, it's probably going to look like it's getting bigger, right? Because it's getting closer to the camera. So I started with the scale at 32%, and I keyframed it to end at about 75%. So that bird actually grew quite a bit as it was flying through the scene. Rotation, you can see here I started at negative 8.7 and I ended at 26. That's quite a bit of rotation on this bird. Okay. Why did it need to rotate? Do you see how much the scene in the background is rotating? Okay, here's where you can really see that scale effect though. See how big that bird's getting? Starts small, gets bigger. And also pay attention to how it rotates with the rock. See the middle of its body? It starts sideways and then it rotates this way. That is where you're really seeing my scale and rotation keyframes come into effect. But the position is obviously super important. So this took me a long time to position the bird to make it look natural. You can see that the X and the Y axis changed quite a bit. In the X, I started, this is the position where it's laying right now. It's at negative 610 and 891 pixels. And it ends at negative 2,410 and negative 385.7. So that's quite a significant change for the position of the bird. Okay, so this is post me realizing I did not describe the position part of this well. I'm still learning how to make tutorials, so stick with me. But I'm going to show you right now the line of that keyframe so you can see how I positioned that bird flying through the scene. I did what I thought looked most natural and best, and that's how I made those decisions. Okay, so now another thing that I used to sell the scene is this motion blur effect. See how it adds a little bit of blur? I think this is the thing that sells the effect, because now look how natural that bird looks in the scene when it has a little bit of motion blur, because that's probably what would have been happening. So the last thing that sells the effect is sound effects. I'll just play you one at a time. Here's it with the first seagull sound effect. Why did I add that one? Because it sounds like you might be hearing that from the closer up seagull, right? This one. It kind of sounds like maybe a seagull that's flying close to the camera would sound like that. And then here's the other seagulls. So there's a lot more in the background, so I added in those other seagull sounds. And then I added in the ocean wave sound effect. And then add in the whoosh. See how the whoosh sells the effect? The ocean waves also help sell that effect because they both kind of hit at their peak at the same time, and that really sells the transition. That's what I mean, the effect of the transition. The seagull sound effects sell the effect of the bird being in the scene. So yeah, that's how I added a bird into the scene. Truthfully, I would rather just catch that naturally, but in this case I think I probably saved the bird's life. So I'm cool with that. Sweet, that's it. If you're new around here, my name is Jordyn. I'm a freelance filmmaker and I'm super passionate about what I do. I just recently started offering one-on-one mentorship. I don't know if this is something I'm going to be doing forever because YouTube videos exist on the internet for a very long time, but I am right now. So I would love to chat with you, and this would be a very good time to hop on that opportunity if you can. I'm also working really hard on creating a lot more resources for y'all, so make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any of that. And I'll continue creating my story content on here. So yeah, cool. I think that's it. I hope you learned something, and thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye guys.